Hi, my name is Danielle. I am the Salty Blossom. How about a story today? Once upon a time, there was a man. This man had a brother who he hadn't seen in a long, long time. So he made plans, he traveled, and he went to stay for a week at his brother's house. Now, he was staying in the guest room, and that very first night that he was there, it was pitch black, he woke up in the middle of the night. He looked to the floor, and he saw there was a snake coiled up on the floor. It looked like the snake was just sort of gathering his energy, gathering himself up so that he could strike out at this man. Now, I don't think any of us would be surprised to know that the man freaked out. He sat upright in bed. He started screaming at the top of his lungs. He was scared out of his mind. He did not know what to do. And his brother, who was sleeping down the hall, ran down the hall, burst into the room, and turned the lights on. And when he did, they both looked down at the floor and they saw that it was not a snake, that it was simply a coil of rope, just sort of sitting on the floor next to the bed. All right. That's the story. It ends right there, but the implications are far-reaching, right? So we've been talking about these past few weeks about our thoughts, about research behind the power of our thoughts, about how powerful our thoughts actually are. And this is a prime example. And so it tends to go that something happens in our lives and we create a story. Like some sort of story like, oh my God, that's a snake. What am I going to do? Now, the thing that happens, the neuroscience behind our thoughts, what this tells us is that once we create a story, we then look for evidence that will support that story. We all want to be correct, right? So we come up with this thought and then we support it. So the man wakes up in the middle of the night, looks at the floor. His instinct is, oh my gosh, that's a snake. And then he probably says, yes, it is coiled just like a snake. Yes, it's the same shape. It's the same size. I bet it's the same color as a snake would be. So his brain not only came up with the story, but also came up with all of the supporting evidence that makes what he thought 100% true. You could not convince him of anything other than that. And once he knew that that was a snake on the floor, his body reacted as if it were a snake. At that point, it didn't matter what it was on the floor. He was reacting to the truth that his thought had told him. All right, so let's think about our thoughts. Our thoughts are powerful. We already know from the science and in some previous videos that the energy of having a thought affects things in our real life. Now we know that once we have a thought, we will automatically look for evidence that will tell us that this thought is, of course, 110% correct, because why would I ever be wrong? All right, now, we do have power, right? We can choose our thoughts. So let's say, like, one thing I struggle with sometimes is self-esteem. So let's say I wake up one morning and I think to myself, why did you ever become a middle school teacher? You're terrible at this. The students don't listen to you at all. You are a bad teacher. And if that's the thought that I keep in my head, then during that day's lessons or during school that day, I'm going to notice, oh, that student wasn't paying attention. Oh my goodness, that student had to go to the bathroom twice. Obviously, that's confirming that I'm a bad teacher. Now, my brain will pick up on all these subtleties, even if the subtleties aren't true. My brain will notice it, and that's what it uses as evidence. What if I woke up that day and had that thought, oh my gosh, such a bad teacher, why did I do this? And what if I caught that and I said, okay, here you go again. This is your pattern. You do this, it's okay. And then I said, I'm going to hold a different thought. I'm going to tell myself, you're an amazing teacher. How lucky these students are to have you. And then during class, during school, my brain will start to notice the little things that give evidence to that thought. thereby strengthening that thought and making me think it's even more and more true. All right. This is so cool, right? All right. Our thoughts affect our lives. We will react to the thought whether or not that thought is true. Is it a snake or is it a coil of rope? We kind of have to decide, but we can use neuroscience to help us. So if you can catch yourself having the thought that this is a snake and you feel yourself reacting, if it is possible to put a pause on there, choose a different thought, even if it doesn't feel like it's true. Take that thought and see what your brain will pick up on. Your brain will convince you that you're true, that you're right, which is wild. That's really cool. All right. So today, as you're going through all the different things that life is throwing at you, the question I want to leave you with is it a snake or is it just a coil of rope?